I am often asked about one popular question. What do you mean as ports? What are ports? Before I get started with what is the definition of port, let me ask you a simple English question. What does the English word port means? Port simply means an entry or exit point of a particular perimeter. For example, say you are in this room. There is a door through which you come in and you go out. That entry or exit point is called a port, right? Likewise, if you can compare it with the other popular ports, which are often the airport and the harbor. Harbor is a place where ships dock, right? They are also called ports. The reason is they are an entry point or an exit point of a particular perimeter, a particular land, a particular country, particular state, and so on, right? So they are called ports. Let us talk what are ports in computers, in technology. What are ports? When we are talking about ports, there are two popular ports. One is the physical port, one is the virtual port. When we talk about physical port, we are all aware of the USB port, the HDMI port, the LPT port, which is otherwise called the line print terminal port, the auxiliary port, the COM port, and you have so many other ports, right? Likewise, these ports actually act as an entry or exit point for carrying a particular data to and forth. Similarly, let's talk about the virtual ports. Virtual ports are often addressed as a number, right? This number usually ranges between 0 to 65,535. This is based on the TCP/IP stack. How many ports are there in a particular given system? There are 65,536 TCP ports and 65,536 UDP ports. Each of these ports are identified by a number, and each of these number corresponds to a service that a particular system is offering. For example, port 80 TCP. This particular port 80 TCP is a service that runs on the particular port 80 called the HTTP service. Meaning, if you go to a website like google.com, yahoo.com, etc., you are actually accessing the web server which is having port 80 open from your client machine. So there is a particular port called port 80 open, which is a HTTP server. Likewise, I will just brief you of most common port numbers that I think as a security enthusiast, we all should know. I'll quickly brief you the popular ports. Port 20, port 21, FTP, File Transfer Protocol. To send and receive files, we often use the port number port 20 and 21 TCP. 22 TCP, SSH, which is Secure Shell, which is almost similar to the command prompt but in a secure shell. 23 TCP is Telnet. Telnet is almost command prompt which is unencrypted. 25 TCP, which is Simple Mail Transfer Protocol. Simple Mail Transfer Protocol is single-handedly responsible for sending out emails from a particular system. Say, for example, I run SMTP service in my computer, which means I have port number 25 open on my computer, which is now responsible to send out emails. 53 UDP, DNS queries. 53 TCP, DNS zone transfer. 80 HTTP. 110 Post Office Protocol, which is used to receive in emails. Unlike SMTP, which is used to send out emails, POP3 is used to receive in emails. 123 TCP is Network Time Protocol. Say, for example, on the bottom right in your clock, right, computer clock, where does the time get synchronized? You don't really enter the time in your computer. It actually gets synchronized from the internet. This is done by time.microsoft.com, which is running a NTP server on port number 123 TCP. 143 IMAP, which is a very popular protocol. It is a mix of both SMTP and POP3 together. It's called the Internet Message Access Protocol. 443, which is HTTPS, Secure HTTP, which is 80. On top of it, you have an encrypted layer. Another three most popular port numbers that I think you all have to know is port 1433 and 1434 for MS SQL server, database server. 3306, MySQL database server. 3389, which is otherwise popularly associated as a remote desktop service or RDP. And the last service that I would like to talk about is port 8080, which is otherwise called the HTTP proxy, right? So we just briefed upon what is the popular ports, physical, virtual, and popular virtual ports and associated service numbers, right? I hope you all had something to learn from this. In case you did, please consider subscribing.